called our company commander Tex because there was something wild and almost mercenary about him. He was a very efficient and ruthless soldier, and his love for his country seemed to be exceeded only by his hatred that he held for its enemies. And so one morning, shortly after 2 vehicles of ours were ambushed on the Kotwa Road, we cordoned off a village to the west of the incident. And Tex assembled the entire population under a huge shady tree, and he proceeded to give them what you might call a motivational talk. And this rather surprised me, that his tone was so courteous and polite. He strode up and down before them with his thumbs hooked in his webbing, and he spoke to them in reasonable tones, explaining the necessity for the security force presence in the area and the need for law and order in the country. And I looked at the people watching him, and all I saw were expressions of disinterest, discourtesy, even outright insolence. They couldn't care less what he was telling them. And I thought to myself, sir, you're wasting your time. Why are you bothering with this exercise? But then I noticed on one side, standing nonchalantly against one of the trucks, was a sergeant from our headquarter element, whom we called the Night Ape. And he stood there, nodding his head as he apparently listened to Tex giving his speech. But I could see the Night Ape's eyes were darting around. He was checking out the place. He was looking at all the footpaths leading into and out of the village. He was looking at the structure of the place. He was looking at where the cattle kraals were positioned. And I thought to myself, hey, I'm sure this is the whole purpose of this gathering here. It's not to be giving little talks to the people. We here, so that the Night Ape can get some information together. And so when Tex had said what he wanted to, he made an offer to the people. And he said, would anybody like to step forward and give me some information on these men who attacked my vehicles this morning? One of my men was wounded, and I would like to find out where these insurgents are, so that we might root them out. Of course, nobody was going to step forward. That was ludicrous. That was just a way to commit suicide. They just stared back at him. And he said, very well, thank you for your time. We will see each other again. And the next time we do, I will have bodies with me. And with that, he climbed on board one of the trucks, and we left. Well, we were based up near Kotwa at the time, our platoon base, but camp was quickly broken there, and we moved over to the company base at Mudzi. And we arrived there, we were given a nice lunch, and then left to our own devices until about 3 o'clock, when we were all assembled outside the ops tent for an address by the company commander. And Tex stood there with a long stick in his hand, and on the ground he had prepared, along with the sergeant major, a scale model of the village. Beautifully done, really nicely detailed. And so he said to us, we're going back there, guys. We're going to pay them a visit tonight. And this is what I want done. And pointing with a stick, he said, I want lanes of fire here and there. I want MAG teams to leave here as soon as I've finished the briefing. And I want the machine guns set up on tripods. And in front of the village, here and here and here, I want ambush positions. And don't worry about claymores. Don't worry about putting stops out on either side of your ambush position or even watching your rear. If anything's going to come at you, it's going to come at you straight from the village, head on. So deal with it. And a few more details that he explained. And so we made preparations, and later on, when it got dark, we travelled back again to the Kotwa Road, and Tex didn't want the vehicles to stop. We had to jump off while they were moving, like paratroopers jumping out of a Dakota. And I thought, man, I'm sure that soldiers in other units don't have to do such risky things as jump out of a moving vehicle in pitch black at night. But nobody broke an ankle or anything, and we formed up on the road, and then we set off silently in the direction of the village. And as we proceeded, one by one, the various call signs were dropped off to deal with their tasks. And then it was the 3 ambush parties, and I was with the center one. And so we left the road and we set off along a very wide open field. At night, it almost looked as though it was the runway of an airstrip. And we moved along the edge of it. We dropped off the first ambush party, and then it was our turn. We stopped, and then the third party moved on to take up a position on our left. And we settled down. It was a full moon that night. We found a shady place under some overhanging trees, and we lay down with our weapons pointing to the village. It was 100% ambush, nobody sleep, everybody awake, everybody watch their front. And so we lay. Unbeknown to any of us, of course, the night ape had eased his way into the village after darkfall. And he had with him, of all things, a Sterling submachine carbine. Oh, we didn't use these things in the Rhodesian army. They were things left over from the Second World War, or probably soon afterwards. But he had this weapon with him in the forlorn hope that perhaps if he was spotted, the sight of this banana-shaped magazine might just buy him a little bit of time. What he found when he got into the village was that there was a little bit of a party going on. The Gooks had come back, and they were going to hold a celebration. And everybody was gathered again under the same tree that Tex had assembled the people just hours before. And there was a lot of Chimurenga songs being sung, and speeches being made, the pitfalls of capitalism and the oppression that the people were suffering at the hands of the Rhodesia Front government, and communism, all the wonderful benefits that it would hold out for them when they had come to power. And so all this kind of indoctrination was taking place there. And the night ape sidled closer and closer, and eventually he was almost rubbing shoulders with the crowd, pushing his way slowly to the front. There was no question about it. We always said that the night ape had frozen water in his veins. He was a man who was fearless, nerves of steel, cool before the word cool was even invented. As cool, if you like, as a peppermint milkshake on a hot summer's afternoon. And so here he was, easing his way to the front of this crowd, fully determined to take out the ringleader, who we could see standing there talking away. But then, unfortunately, he pushed his luck too far. Somebody noticed there was something funny about him. And the cry went up. And instantly there was pandemonium. And they scattered. And the night ape raised this weapon, took a bead on the leader as he fled, and fired. It fired one shot, and then there was a stoppage. But it was a fatal shot, and tragically, as he fired, a woman ran in front of him as she panicked and tried to get away, and the bullet hit her in the temple. Well, where we were in the ambush position, I distinctly heard the sound of that shot being fired, but I heard nothing else. The night was still quiet, and so we waited and waited and waited. And then, all of a sudden, to our left, the ambush party opened up. Now, when you're on the range zeroing the weapons, they bang away and they pop away almost as though they know they're just there on a routine business. Here we are on the range, zeroing the weapons, bang, 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 and that's the sort of sound they make. But when you're in the bush and they go off unexpectedly near you in a contact, they speak with a venom and they speak with a snap and a clarity that demands instant attention. The whole sound is authoritarian. It is so hard to explain it. And I've never heard anybody else talk about this kind of thing. But to me, I always felt that I noticed this great difference in the sound of the weapons when they were fired in anger and when they were fired on the range. Well, of course, there's no scientific explanation for that. It's purely psychological. But nonetheless, this contact broke out, just to our left. And it alerted us. We were immediately looking to our front to see whether anything would develop in our area. But nothing did. And so we waited until sunup, and then we were withdrawn. Trucks came to fetch us, and the two ambush parties that had not been engaged in the contact were taken to the village. And so we arrived there. I climbed out of the truck and I saw the body of this woman lying there that the night ape had inadvertently and very unfortunately and tragically had shot. And then the stores truck arrived, and I was surprised. Covered truck with a tailgate, and it was reversed into the clearing. By this time, Tex had assembled everybody again, and now it was a different story. There was no insolence on the faces. This time it was concern. They were worried. They didn't know what was going to happen next. And he said to them, "Do you remember the last time I was here? I said to you, we will see each other again, but I will have bodies with me." And he pointed to the woman lying nearby, and he said, "There's one." And he said, "Take a look." And he nodded, and the tailgate was dropped on the store's truck, and the body was unceremoniously just rolled out to fall with a thud on the floor in front of them. And he said, "There's another." And another body was rolled out of the truck. And he said, "There's another. And there's another. And there's another." 4 of them caught in the ambush. 3 of them seemed to be recruits. But the 4th, hello, what have we got here? A genuine gook, dressed up in his Canadian tuxedo that they loved so well, their stepping out clothes, blue denim jacket, blue denim jeans, but even underneath the jeans I could see he had another suit of clothing on underneath it. There he was, stone dead. And the crowd made not a sound, not a murmur. Impassioned faces just stared forward. And I thought, let me look at the kids. This is where I'll see something. And so I started scanning the faces of the children. And I came to a young teenage girl, and I could see the emotions were working on her features. She could almost not breathe. And she must have felt that I was looking at her, because she looked up at me. She looked at one of the bodies again. She looked up at me again. And I knew this must be one of her brothers. And I motioned Tex. And I sort of said to him, "That girl there knows something." And he nodded to her and beckoned to her to come to the body. And she leapt to her feet. Her mother tried to stop her, but nothing was stopping her. She ran to this youth, fell down there. She wanted to take hold of his shirt, but it was covered in blood, and she recoiled from that. And all I heard her say was, "Lavu, Lavu, Lavu," which is a shortened term of endearment for a boy's name, Lovemore. So It was really a very sad thing to witness. And Tex showed no emotion. He was as steely-eyed as Clint Eastwood, just surveyed everything that was going on around him. He didn't say another word. He'd made his point, and he said, "Right, guys, let's go." And so we climbed back on the trucks and we left. And I suppose the lesson there for them was, if you want to keep bad company, you must be prepared to pay the price. But one thing's for certain, Texas trucks were never hit again on the Kotwa Road.